Good morning, everyone. In today's class, let us discuss another head of income from, we can say that sources of income. We are discussing various heads under the sources of income. Today, let us discuss profit and gains of business or professions. It is the third head under the sources of income. Just a moment. Profit and gains of business or profession. So in this, whatever the profit or gains arised out of business or profession are computed under this head. Section 2, subsection 13 defines clearly the term business. In general terms, we know about the business. Actually, the business includes trade, commerce, or any manufacture or any adventure activity in the nature of trade, commerce, or manufacture, all includes under the term business. In simple words, we can say that any activity which is undertaken with an object of earning of profit. So why we will do business actually? With the motto of earning profit only. So whatever is the activity we are conducting in order to earn the profit is known as business. According to Income Tax Act, business includes profession and vocation also for tax purpose. Because as per income tax, all the sources of incomes have been categorized into only 5 heads. Those are income from salary, income from house property. Next one is profit and gains of business or profession. Fourth one, that is capital gains. Last one is income from other sources. So, Income Tax Act clearly defined about the, defined each and every aspect. It means which income comes under which head under the Income Tax Act. So, under section 28, the following incomes are chargeable to tax under the head profit and gains of business or profession. So, for our convenience purpose, they have mentioned a list of items under section 28. Those we can see, let us one by one. As usual, profit and gains of any business will obviously comes under this category. In addition to that, any compensation and payments received in the business or profession. As a part of business, sometimes we may receive any payment or any compensation arising out of business or profession. Means once we are leaving a particular business in a particular location, we may receive somewhat amount from other party. So that is also comes under the head profit and gains of business or profession. Not only that, any benefit or perquisite that can be in the form of cash or in kind received in the business or profession is also considered as income from business or profession. And any income from speculative transactions and any interest, salary, bonus, any other remuneration received by a partner from the firm. Means if we are a partner of any particular partnership firm, whatever the profit, not profit actually, any interest, salary, bonus or remuneration received by a partner is also called as income from business itself. Again, whatever the profit earned by the partnership firm will be charged upon that particular partnership firm itself. That's why here we are not considering about the profit. That tax upon that profit will be charged on the partnership firm itself. But whereas a partner's salary or any other remuneration will be treated as income from business or profession. Next one is interest on securities and any other export incentives. Such items are considered as sources under the profit and gains of business or profession. Here, a list of items are there which are not considered as incomes under this head. That is rent from house property. Again, there are certain exceptions to that rule. That is, if the house is let out to employees for the purpose of conducting that business in an efficient manner, then the rent received will be treated as business income. Means here he is receiving income from his employees only. But as a part of business he is receiving. Means he constructed the houses for the purpose of convenience of the employees and he is collecting somewhat amount of rent. So that is called as income from business itself, even though it is arising out of a house as a part of rent. Next, if the house is let out with the object of carrying the business of the assessee in running the business smoothly and efficiently. So letting out the building for bank or police station, etc. Such house, the income from such house is treated as business income. So he is giving on rental basis itself. He is letting out. Even then also that is considered as business income only, not income from house property. Thus, that we need to understand it clearly. Next. Before coming to know about the topic of how we are going to compute the taxable income from profit or gains from the business or profession, let us familiar with the few concepts. That is accounting methods in computation of business income. Usually, there are two systems of accounting in order to enter the business income in the books of accounts. Those are mercantile system and cash system. If we are following mercantile system, there is a definition for total expenses and total income. Total expenses is equal to expenses we already paid and expenses which are outstanding. We need to add those. From that, you need to deduct prepaid expenses. So all these are related to a particular period. So that may be for 6 months or that may be for 1 year. So what you are going to do, not only the expenses you already paid, whatever the expenses are relevant to that particular period, which may be outstanding or also be considered. And expenses we paid, but those are not relevant to that particular period should be deducted. So that's why expenses paid plus outstanding expenses minus prepaid expenses. In order to compute total income, we should take income received and outstanding incomes minus income received in advance. So this is the formula if we follow the mercantile system of accounting in order to compute the business income. Next one is cash system. Under this system, income collected during the previous year relating to current year or earlier previous year is taxable in the year of receipt. Means we are not bothering about the amount of receipt and its source of period. Just in which period we are getting, we are considering that income to that particular period itself. We are not thinking about whether this belongs to previous year or coming year or this current year. So we are not at all considering these matters. Just whatever we are receiving, we are going to consider that income as belongs to the period which we received. So similarly, expenditure paid during the previous year relating to current year or earlier will be allowed as deduction. So in order to know about the profit arising out of a business or profession, we are going to consider the incomes and expenditures also. So whatever the expenditure is there, we are going to deduct it from the income. So the remaining amount will be considered as profit arising out of business. So for that purpose, we should know whether they are following mercantile system or cash system. But for few things, if the books of accounts are maintained on the basis of mercantile system of accounting, the following expenses are allowed as deductions only on payment basis. Because in mercantile system, the formula is expenses paid plus outstanding expenses minus prepaid expenses. So for these expenditures will be allowed as deductions only on the payment basis. If you are not at all paid, then we are not going to get it as exemption or deduction or admissible expenditure. Admissible expenditure. That is, let us see one by one. The amount payable to government or local authorities, which is in the form of tax. If the assessee pays such amount, then only it will be allowed as deduction. Otherwise, not going to allowed as deduction. Next, employer contribution to provident fund, bonus or commission to employees, interest payable on the loans, which is taken out from the public institutions or such as banks, and few other things will be allowed as reductions only on the basis of payment itself, not on accrual basis. In order to consider, or else we can say that while computing the income under this head, the following points should be kept in mind. Those are, a particular business should be carried on by a assessee itself. Whether the assessee is doing the business for himself or through the employees is not to be considered. Carrying a business means right to carry on business. Means are we the owners or not? He may run the business by himself or by taking few employees in order to run the business. That is irrelevant. The business is carried on by the assessee itself. In case of minor who is carrying out the business, or if he is owner of the business, then guardian is liable to pay the tax. So the following points are to be considered while computing the income under this head. First one is business is carried by the assessee. Next one is the foremost important thing. Whatever the business or profession should be carried on during the previous year. Means whatever the business we carried in the previous year, we are computing in this assessment year. Next one is legality of the business is not considered. Whether it is legal or illegal, here it is irrelevant. For that offense, illegality, the punishment may be in some other aspect. But whatever we earned out of the business, that may be legal or illegal, tax should be imposed. Next one is aggregation of business incomes. For example, if any assessee is carrying multiple number of businesses, then all the profits need to be summed up. Aggregation is going to be taken place. So first, profit or loss from each business is to be computed. Then profits are aggregated. If any loss is occurring from any one business, that can be set off against the profit of another business. So that is called as aggregation of business incomes. So these are the few rules regarding computation of taxable income under this head. Means what are the important points we should keep in mind? Next. We all know very well, in order to conduct the business, in order to get some business income, we need to spend some expenditures also. So whatever the income we received as a part of business, all that can be considered as profit, because in order to earn that income, we are spending few expenditures also. So that expenditures should be deducted from that income. Then only the remaining amount will be considered as profit arised out of that business. So in order to deduct such type of expenditures, what is the provision under the head, under the Income Tax Act? Let us see. So deductions in computing the business income, that has been specified in section 37 subsection 1. So deductions in computing the business income. In order to consider a particular expenditure as a deduction, the following are the principles to be observed to give an expenditure as deduction. What are those actually? Let us discuss. The expenditure must be revenue nature, means it should not be in capital nature. If it is a capital nature expenditure, it will not be allowed as deduction. Next one is the expenditure is incurred to run the business activity in the interest of the business. So that is not for the purpose of investment nature. That is only for the purpose of carrying out the business. And next one is, it should not be spent for the personal purpose. For example, if any owner withdraws some money from the business, and if he is spending the purpose of paying his life insurance premium, then such expenditure is not considered as business expenditure. Next one is, it should not be prohibited under any law or any, if it is against any policy. Next one is, the expenditure is related to the relevant previous year. If it is not related to the relevant previous year, then also that expenditure is not considered as deductions while computing the income under this head. So the following are the some of the examples which will be allowed as deductions: rent of the building, repairs of the building, remunerations to staff, health insurance, contribution to provident fund, interest on borrowings, bad debts, expenditure on scientific research, any legal expenditures relevant to the business, and any other deductions. For few expenditures, some limit is going to be existing. If a limit is not mentioned, then the total expenditure for the previous year relevant to the current assessment year will be allowed as deduction. Sorry. So for each and every item, special provisions are there. We have to consider the provisions according to the Act itself. This we can see while solving the problems. So let us see for sample thing. Rent of the building. Rent paid the whole, whatever the amount they paid will be allowed as deduction only because he has taken a particular building on rental basis in order to conduct the business. So whatever is the rent he is paying, means the assessee is paying for the purpose of business will be allowed as deduction from the business income. So likewise, many rules and regulations are there. So let us see the important topic, that is computation of income from business or profession. This is very important procedure because we are studying about the head profit or gains from the business or profession. So the basic step is how to compute the income from business or profession. We will be having two types of information. As we all know, every business person is going to maintain books of accounts. In order to know the financial result, he will be preparing financial statements, trading profit and loss account. If it is a non-profit oriented organization, they will be preparing receipts and payments account. Being a commerce students, this we know because that might have covered in the first year itself. So we may be furnished the data regarding the profit and loss account or receipts and payments account. So if the assessee is following mercantile system, profit and loss account information will be there. If the assessee is following cash system, he will be maintaining receipts and payments account. If profit and loss account is given, what is the procedure of computation of income from business or profession? Let us see that one. There are few steps in order to compute the income from business or profession. In the first step, we need to take the net profit as per profit and loss account. For that, we need to add the following to the net profit. What are those actually? Let us discuss. Expenses which are debited in profit and loss account, but they are inadmissible. Means in the previous introduction itself, I told us business expenditures are allowed as admissible expenses. Expenses which are in nature of personal, those are inadmissible. So sometimes in the profit and loss account, they might have deducted those expenditures in the profit and loss account. So we need to add such items. So such as provision for doubtful debts, income tax, wealth tax. Such expenses are not admissible. So we need to add it back. For example, sales tax, local taxes, customs duties, these are all part of business. So these will be allowed as deduction. But whereas provision for doubtful debts, income tax, wealth tax are not allowed as admissible expenses. Let us see the next one. If any interest amount is paid outside India, or we can say that any interest paid or payable on amount borrowed outside India, if tax is not deducted at source, then such type of interest amount is not allowed as deduction. Next, foremost thing, important thing, any personal expenditures paid from business. So we can say that paying of life insurance, pay premium, drawing for the purpose of domestic purpose, all those are not relevant to the business. So we can say that these are personal expenditures. And any capital expenses which are incurred, like purchase of assets, all those are also be added to the net profit. Next, any charities or any donations given by the business person, and we might have taken in the profit and loss account, that need to be added back. Next, any capital losses and also any depreciation charged excessively. How we will come to know it as excessively? Means whatever we deducted, that amount is greater than the amount charged by the income tax authorities. That is called as excess depreciation. That need to be added back. And any expenditure which is not incurred in accordance with the provision of income tax, such amounts are also to be added. And any notional expenses like salary or commission to the proprietor, such type of expenses are also to be added. Next, coming to the step 3, that is deduct the expenses which are related to the business but not debited in the profit and loss account but allowable. Means whatever the expenses which are related to the business, but sometimes we may forget to enter in the profit and loss account. So at that time, such a type of expenses should be deducted because which are admissible. Next, deduct the incomes which are to be computed under other heads of income. but credited in the profit and loss account. That may be rent from house property, or income from salary, or capital gain, anything. The other source of income which might have credited in the profit and loss account will be deducted. Next, deduct the items which cannot be treated as incomes. Sometimes income tax refunds, recovering of bad debts, which already disallowed earlier. Such type of incomes, such type of receipts are not considered as incomes. So that we have to deduct all those. Next, the step 6 is add incomes related to the business but not credited in the profit and loss account. Definitely we have to add those. Otherwise, we will not be coming to know about the actual income arised out of the business. So, after adjusting all the steps, we will be getting the figure which is step 7. The resultant figure is the income from business. So, these are the steps to be followed while calculating the income from or profit or gains from business or profession. Let us see one small example for computation of profit or loss from business or profession. Here, Mr. Anil Desai submitted profit and loss account for the previous year, and he's asking us to compute income from business. So let us see the items of profit and loss account and observe debit and credit sides. Let us eliminate the expenses which are inadmissible and the incomes which are not related to the business. And if any depreciation excessively charged or not, let us find all these things. So let us check one by one item wise, which are mentioned in the profit and loss account. And let us compute the income from business for the relevant assessment year. First, we need to observe the profit and loss account. Then, if any additional information is there, we need to check for that also. So first one is here, he mentioned as salaries. In order to conduct the business, appointing of employees is also important. So paying of salaries is also required. So that salaries are admissible expenditure only. If you observe the steps in the second step itself, expenses debited in profit and loss account, but they are inadmissible. If the expenses are inadmissible, then only that need to be added. So, first of all, draw a table with the title as Computation of Income from Business for the assessment year. As usual, just 3 columns, particulars. For amount, 2 columns. One is inner column, one is outer column. In order to make adjustment inner column, the first sentence you have to write it as net profit as per the profit and loss account. Here that is 10,38,300. For that we need to make adjustments. So add expenses debited in profit and loss account, but they are not allowed as reductions. So proprietor's salary undoubtedly inadmissible only. Next one is any expenditure which is capital in nature cannot be admissible. So current repairs, capital repairs are allowed as admissible expenditure. Capital expenditure not admissible. So here we have taken capital expenditure also in the add items. Next, income tax, provision for doubtful debts. Any other taxes are not allowed as admissible expenses. So that's why we are adding all these. So one by one, let us see. Current repairs will be allowed as admissible expenditure only. Advertisement is also admissible expenditure. Sales tax is admissible expenditure, but whereas income tax is not admissible expenditure. Coming to the point of bad debts, it is admissible. In the points, it is clearly mentioned. There are so many points which are admissible and which are not admissible. The blind thing we need to follow is expenditures which are related to the absolutely business are admissible expenses. That is a golden rule of thumb. Provision for doubtful debts is not allowed as deduction. That's why 7,200 is taken as add items. So this is about debit side of the profit and loss account. Coming to the credit side. Interest on securities. Here he is not conducting the business of buying and selling of securities. So whatever the interest on securities will be considered as income from other sources. If he is conducting buying and selling of securities, then it will be considered as business income. Here it is not like that. Next thing is commission. This is as a part of business, we may receive some commissions. Next, rent of the plant. Here, part of the plant is let for 1 month due to lack of proper business. Because of not proper business, he has given that plant for sub-rent. So we can consider this as business income itself. So we have added and deducted according to the nature of transactions. So we adjusted the depreciation is also, which is in capital nature. Usually, depreciation need to be charged every year as a revenue expenditure. So whatever the 80,000 spent capital expenditure on buildings at the rate of 10% according to the income tax provisions, will be considered as deduction. So if you make all these adjustments, then we will be getting the resultant figure that will be considered as income from business. So for all those items which we made adjustment to the net profit as per profit and loss account, clear-cut explanation is also mentioned. Regarding proprietor salary, it is a notional expenditure. That's why it is not allowed as deduction. Next, regarding capital repairs, current repairs will be allowed as deduction. Capital expenditure, repairs for rented building, we can claim depreciation definitely because that was borne by the owner, not the assessee. Regarding sales tax, it is a part of business expenditure. That is why it is allowed as deduction. But whereas income tax, we can declare it as a personal item, personal tax. Next, coming to the point of bad debts, up to a certain limit, it will be allowed as admissible expenditure. But whereas provision for doubtful debts, which is meant for anticipatory loss, for the purpose of future, it will not be allowed as deduction. The securities transaction cost is not a tax which is relevant to his business. He made some investment on securities. For that purpose, he paid securities transaction tax. As we are not taking that income, that is income from investment as income from business or profession, we should not deduct the securities transaction tax as expenditure. Next thing is interest on securities. That income we should declare under the head income from other sources. Next important thing is rent of the plant. That is happening as a part of business. In the season, wherever he is not getting adequate operations, he is subletting that plant. So that can be straight away considered as income from business. So these are the steps which are very important in order to adjust the profit as per profit and loss account. So when you adjust all these things like adding of inadmissible expenses, deducting of incomes from various sources, we can say that we have adjusted thoroughly in order to get the taxable income from business or profession. So like that, we have to compute income from business or profession. In the coming class, let us see the next aspect of computing income from business or profession when we are given a receipts and payments account. Just now we have seen about information which is given according to profit and loss account. So with this, I am ending this session.